Right?
Yeah, go ahead.
Billy, if we could just maybe start, kind of got a little glimpse, just chatting this morning, but how you felt, where were you when you found out, what the stay-in protocols was like for you?
You know, a lot of people and families have been hit hard with this. It really was not that bad for me at all. I mean, I could have worked. Actually was getting ready to go work out when I found out because I was coughing. I think the Toronto game got canceled, and then we had practice on the 23rd, and then I was getting ready to go work out, and I was just coughing a little bit more than normal. And the last time I tested was after that back-to-back. So I just said to the medical guys, I said, listen, I've been coughing a lot. And they were like, come on in here. And went in there, and I tested positive that night at the 23rd. I had what I would consider just a mild cold, some congestion. I didn't feel, like 100%, but I certainly didn't feel terrible, awful. I wasn't bedridden or anything else like that. So like I said, I probably could have continued on. But you want to keep everybody else safe, and it came. And then I obviously had a test after. I actually was cleared to go to Washington. I tried to, but my flight got because I couldn't leave to that day because my numbers, I need another day of the same numbers or above where I was at, and the I had to wait so that next morning was when that snowstorm came through and all those flights had gotten canceled. My flight got canceled, so I couldn't get in until like later in the afternoon, and it was just too much. And talking to medical, they were like, listen, just doing that's just too much. So I just stayed back, but I actually was cleared that morning.
Billy, what did you like about what Chris did in your absence?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, like one of the things that, we've talked a lot about here, has been the players, staying ready, and, you never know what your team's going to look like. And I think that goes with, coaching staffs as well, when you want to, make sure that, if, for right now, Josh Longstaff's out, he's out right now in safety protocols. So this stuff happens, but I think, what you want to do coaching wise, I think, is model what you're asking the players to do. And, we've asked the players to stay ready, stay connected, and jobs, roles, responsibilities, rotations may change, and they've got to be able to expect the unexpected. And I think the same thing with our staff. And I think Chris did a great job. I think our whole staff did a great job. And, I think one thing, about it is, and I've been, he has sat next to me for 7 years to my left. You cannot, I think, underestimate the value of a guy like Mo for our staff. A guy that's been in this league for 40 years, he's a Hall of Fame player. He's had 3 different head coaching stints. John Bryant moving in front of the bench to help. Really, I think it was a collective effort, by everybody out there. And I appreciate, what everybody did and how hard they worked. And I think, outside of me not being there, the line of communication was the same as it normally was. And, I think Chris did a great job as well as the rest of the staff of staying connected, staying together, and everybody kind of picking up the slack and kind of just moving forward. And, I just appreciate, not only what they did, but I appreciate what the players did as well.
Give us, paint the picture for us Friday night's game, Friday afternoon's game in Indiana, Saturday night, where you were, how you watched it, and your reaction to DeMar's magic.
Well, the first one I was on in Indiana, I didn't even know if we were going to get a shot up, so the one-legged, because I thought the clock was going to run out. The second one, I about fell over the coffee table. I jumped up, I couldn't believe the shot out of the corner. I mean, the 2 shots were, really, really, really remarkable. They were really incredible. And I think, in the Indiana game in particular, it was a game offensively for us that it wasn't really going well. And, they stayed the course, I think, as a team and kept battling and fighting. And I've always said this, and you could see it, from the TV, is that we've got a resilient group and a group that will battle and fight all the way to the end. And when things are not going well, sometimes you find out a little bit more about yourself. And I give all those guys credit. There was so many plays made, in particular, the Indiana game, Kobe grabbing that rebound with 0.7 seconds to go and going to the floor and getting the ball to DeMar. Vooch's block in Washington, Zach's defense on Beal late. There was a lot of things that put the group in a position to win. But, the reality is, and, I told the guys this today, with 1 second to go in both games, we were down. And, if those shots don't go in, there's maybe a little bit of a different feeling, coming back off a back-to-back. So, we got to keep getting better. We got to keep improving, as a team. It's been a lot of games for those guys in a short period of time. I think it was 5 and 7. And for them to stay the course and do what they did, says a lot. But I do think that, in particular defensively, we got to get better than what we've been, because the defense, and I get Lonzo and Alex are out there, great defenders, but there's other things that we can be doing collective as a group better than what we've done. And I think the biggest thing is when you win, sometimes it masks things and you lose sight, and there's slippage in areas and slippage in things that we got to get better at. So the shots, listen, certainly always as a coach and as a team and as players, you always want to be on the winning side of the ledger, so those shots were remarkable. They're incredible. I'm not taking anything away from them. They're phenomenal, but big picture for us, we got to keep getting better. And I think that hopefully we can keep doing that. And again, we're coming 5 out of 7 in another game here tonight, but I think the guys have done a great job dealing with the issues that the whole league has had to deal with without making excuses and just trying to go out and play.
Alex, just how's he doing?
Alex is doing great. Actually, when I got cleared, I came in to the building and worked him and Alfonso out and Lonzo out. So right now, the only thing that we've got to see him do is have some kind of contact because of the road trip, the back-to-back, the schedule. I think if that goes well, he would be ready to play. We have to see how he responds to that. In terms of the running and the workouts and the sprinting and the cutting, it's been fine, but he really hasn't had any contact at all because we've let his, that sprain rest, and then he's been ramping up, his running and conditioning. And I think that, we get a day in after this, we've got 3 days in between our next game. There'll be some time for him to have some contact, and then we should have a better picture of what that looks like going into the next game.
Give an update on Tyler Cook.
A pretty significant ankle sprain. It's probably going to be a couple weeks for him. He feels better today than he did, but MRI, showed that it was a pretty significant sprain. So it's probably going to be a couple weeks.
A couple times Chris said that it was really hard for you to watch from home because you're so competitive. Do you agree with that statement, or what was your view of how you dealt with watching from home?
I think that it's the first time for me that I've ever been in that situation. I've been very blessed. I haven't had to miss a game because of illness or an emergency or something to do with my family or something where something's come up where I've had to miss a game. It just hasn't happened. I really felt like it was important, from the position I was in, was to have a lot of trust in Chris, a lot of trust in the staff, and be there to support them as best I could, because I think what happens is when you're the head coach and you're out of it and you're from afar, I think one of the things is, and it happens every game, you come up with these game plans and situations, and you can get into controlling every time out, and this is running this on the first time out and do this, and here's the rotations, here's the substitute. But what happens inevitably is Tyler Cook sprains his ankle, Javonte Green goes out with his groin, guys are in foul trouble, and all that stuff goes by the wayside. So I just really tried to, as best I could from where I was at, watch an extensive amount of film, meet with those guys on Zoom, talk to them, help them any way I could, support them any way I could, and get as much information of what I was seeing through watching film, to try to help those guys. And then, like I said, just trust the group. And I think that the group, did a really, really good job, for the last, whatever it was, 5 games or so.
Did you have an update on Javonte as well?
Yeah, his is going to be probably 2 to 4 weeks right now with a groin. MRI shows a strain there. I think they've got to let that heal. But that's where he's at this point in time. It's probably 2 to 4 weeks.
With all the players missing time due to COVID protocols over the last few weeks, all the new guys coming in on short notice, not necessarily getting to practice, I think there's been some conversation about the quality of play league-wide. And I'm curious, either specific to Bulls games or league-wide, have you noticed a drop-off in quality of play or not really?
Well, I've always said this. I think anytime you take great players off the floor, it's always going to impact anybody's team. It's just the way it is. And there's been obviously a lot of teams, not only us, but around the league that have dealt with that. But I also think one of the things that's happened is, because you've been given some situations of hardship where guys can come in now, this is an opportunity that there's kind of like, I got a chance to maybe carve out an NBA roster spot for myself. So I think teams are competing and playing incredibly hard. Guys that are getting an opportunity to play that maybe didn't have that kind of an opportunity, whether it was in the G League or they were just out of the NBA, are now being afforded minutes. And, certainly they want to prove that they belong, can stay. So, you know, when you take some of the players out of a game that's the stars of this league, certainly you're going to see a difference of play. But I think the competitiveness and the spirit and the way teams are fighting and playing has still remained at a pretty high level.
All right, guys, real quick, we're going to go to Zoom. Cheryl, then we'll come back.
Hi, Billy. Glad to see you back.
Thank you, Cheryl.
Billy, the NBA came out with the new schedule, the reach, changing the schedule to accommodate the games that are lost. What are your thoughts? Because you have several back-to-backs.
I'm sorry, Cheryl, I couldn't hear the whole question. I apologize.
The NBA's with their new schedule, taking care of the postponements. What are your thoughts, especially because you're going to have several back-to-backs?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be after this 3-game stretch, we really are going to be up against it, in terms of how compacted the games are going to be. It's just the way it is. We've got to get these games in. It's probably not ideal. We probably going into Christmas, with the cancellation of the Toronto game gave us a pretty long, extensive break. But you realize at some point you're going to have to make up for that. But this month, once we get through this game and have these 3 days with the way the schedule's set up, it's going to be a lot. I think there's one maybe point in time where it's like 6 games in 9 days. Those are hard things, but with all the postponements around the league, it's not only us, there's other teams going to have to be dealing with the same thing.
For two more.
Okay.
Go ahead, Casey.
Thanks, real quick. That's a pretty significant loss, Javante, obviously.
Yes.
All losses are, but just the way he stepped up for you. How do you approach that? Caruso coming back will obviously help your depth, but Derrick Jones Jr., but how do you approach that from a coaching standpoint?
Yeah, like I said, Javante's played really well for us and he's been great. It is a tough loss. I think he's complemented that first unit really, really well. It's good to see Derrick back healthy. I thought he gave us a really good game in Washington, and we'll have to figure it out. I think that's the one thing that's been somewhat challenging is when these guys go in and out and you don't have practice time. They've done a really good job of handling, hey, here's going to be your role tonight, or here's the position you're in tonight. So again, it's tough with him being out because he has been such a big part of our team and has played so well. But we'll have to figure out different ways to try to find ways to make up his energy, because he's been an energy player for us. And I think in a lot of ways, when you're playing as many games as you are, even, the back-to-back against Indiana and then, Washington, you need energy. And he's one of those guys that provides that. We're going to have to get it. So hopefully if we get Alex back, that's another, energy kind of player as well.
Thank you.